Why is it so hard? But again, it stops healthy relationships, right? In my mind, a healthy relationship is one where I can tell you some negative things about yourself. And most people gauge the success or the status of their relationship on like how positive is it? How overwhelmingly positive is it? Even if it's not overwhelmingly positive, because I can't talk about all the negative shit. Welcome to Racking Our Brains. I'm Paul.
And I'm Abdul, and today we're discussing something that we've been thinking about, and I hope you'll think about it too.
I'm most excited to learn how other people feel about topics I'm passionate about.
We know you have something to share, so leave a comment below.
Make sure to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you get our newest discussion.
Paul, we are back. And I say that in a lot of episodes, but we are back after like 49 weeks of not recording.
It's a very interesting denomination to use, but okay.
The number of weeks instead of just almost a year?
Well, I mean, we were just talking about the fact that if somebody asked me when was the last time we recorded, I would have said, a couple of months ago. I know it's been a long time. I guess that's just how ridiculous my memory is. And we talk about that all the time. But yeah, I would have never said a year. I would have put money that it hasn't been a year.
As Jeff Goldblum's character in Jurassic Park said, life finds a way. And in this case, it's of getting in the way of the podcast. So I figured we could do something quick and fun. What has happened in the world? Because we try to be somewhat topical, current events-ish every now and again. Off the top of your head, what's happened since last September? It's September 2023 right now. We haven't recorded since September 2022. What has happened in that time? Some big events.
What big events?
I'll start. Let's go.
I was going to say, you put me on the spot. I have no idea.
That's cool. I was just wanted to see like what comes to our heads, right? I literally haven't looked anything up. Let's go backwards, right? Recently, this just happened. Jimmy Buffett died. Are you a Jimmy Buffett fan? That's fucking terrible, bro.
What?
Thank goodness.
Wait, is it pronounced Buffett or buffet?
It's, as far as I know, it's Jimmy Buffett.
I'm pretty sure it's buffet.
Maybe we're talking about two different artists.
Although
he did he did have a song called Cheeseburger in Paradise, and maybe that was a part of the buffet.
Absolutely. Royale with cheese. Yo, that's what he was talking about. It's French, bro.
I wasn't a fan, I gotta say. Nothing against it. It's just it was not
you weren't a fan of Jimmy Buffett?
His music. I don't really know the guy.
I don't know his music at all. I mean, Margaritaville or something like that?
Yes, that's the big one. Yep. He put himself on the map with that, I'm assuming.
Take you down to Kokomo, right?
That's the Beach Boys.
Exactly.
But say...
Okay, obviously I'm showing my ignorance. I am a fan of... I'm a fan of good music in a sense. I shouldn't know. I am not a fan of good music. I will listen to good music. I am not a big fan of almost any music other than, literally 90s and, 2000s hip hop and, R&B, good R&B in general. But as you know, I played football in college, and just playing football in general, spent some socializing time with the Caucasoidals. And I like all types of music, right? I'll listen to, it could be heavy metal, it could be country. Now, do I like country music? I'm using air quotes. No. But are there great country music songs that I'll listen to and actually be able to, vibe with and enjoy? Cool. But as far as, I don't know. So if I'll hear a song and I'm like, that's a cool song. I'll have absolutely no idea who sung it. And it could be the most iconic, but I know, quote unquote, white reference, right? U2, right? Bono is in U2, right?
Yeah.
Right. So, I know some shit and stuff, but for the most part, if you say Jimmy Buffett, I won't, I'll be listening to and enjoying a Jimmy Buffett song and won't know who the fuck sang it.
I think the same is probably for me, right? I literally know Margaritaville. Cheeseburger in Paradise, only because I think that song is terrible. And there's another one. There's another one that I think I know, something about a son of a sailor man. I don't know if that's the title or it's just part of the chorus, but that's it. Yeah, I wasn't really a fan, but rest in peace to. And I know he had a ton of fans. He changed the music landscape in some way. All right, so working backwards, we're going past very recent history. What else has happened? Weather has been crazy. Some
Oh,
droughts,
right,
some
Hawaii,
fires.
like Hawaii.
Hawaii, that was huge. Yes, wow.
Oh, we've had a pretty big argument about that, and I actually wanted to scream at you about that, publicly. Um,
Yeah, I would love the audience to hear this. I still have no idea what you're mad at. That you're mad that I wasn't as as a hyper aware of whether this could have been preventable or not. But go ahead, state exactly what you were really mad at me about.
right. I don't know. It didn't begin as mad at you. Like called you and we talked about it, and I was appalled at Hawaii. Right. So I live somewhere where it doesn't snow. It very, very rarely snows.
Okay. Okay.
But when it did snow, it caused a problem. Like people literally lost their lives because of the safety conditions, because of the lack of preparedness with how to deal with roadways and traffic and things because of the advent of snow. Not advent, excuse me, because of, the precipitation. And it blew my fucking mind, right? Because just because it never snows doesn't mean you can't prepare for it. Because you know that snow is a possibility. And if you are a city where literally millions and millions of people live and millions of people visit per year, right? So you're not some podunk town with no resources and no impact, no relatively large impact with things like that. It would just, in my mind, it behooves you to, okay, so if Topeka, it almost never snows there, and I don't know if it does. It probably does snow in Topeka. But if it almost never snows in Topeka, like once every 15 years, why wouldn't Topeka have a plan for if and when it does snow, this is how we'll handle it? And we'll use Kenosha, Wisconsin, or someplace in Minnesota where it snows all the damn time as a paradigm for how to prepare for that. So that's my thought process, right? So if you are a city and you care about your inhabitants, you will prepare for reasonable, earthquakes are kind of tough to quote unquote prepare for. But if they're happening on a regular basis, or or if you're on, I guess, the fault line situation, then that's something you should prepare for, right? Because a lot of people could get hurt, a lot of damage could get done, and there's a lot that you could mitigate and or minimize from a damage standpoint, from a loss standpoint. And the fact that it seemed like there was zero preparation, zero infrastructure for, okay, this is how we communicate, this is how we'll evacuate. And so, like 100 people should, in my mind, in 2023, 100 people should not die. I think that number is a little bit smaller. It's a little bit larger than 100. But somewhere around 100 people died because of a wildfire.
I thought it was way more than that.
The last I remember was exactly 99. And so I think it was more than that. I don't know about weight. When you say weight, you mean like 300?
I thought it was like almost 500. I think like 1,000 were missing. And when I saw it, let me look it up now.
Yeah, I'm going to do the same thing. What is it called? Victim.
No, you're right. You're right. As of 4 days ago, death toll at 115.
115. Gotcha. And that is, just to be reasonable, that is the BBC.com that I'm looking at. What outlet did you get that number from?
Kauai Now. So some Hawaiian publication.
Cool. We'll go with those guys instead of those fucking British limeys.
Wow. Casual racism.
Whoa. Britons aren't a race. You can't, come on. Just because I hate rats doesn't mean I'm racist. They're not a race.
All right. So I do want to keep it moving. We still got much of the year to get through. But yeah, your issue is, and I think that's an interesting future discussion. I feel like I side with you for the most part, but there is the uncomfortable calculus of you're taking your risk. It's an economic thing, right? And that's the thing they're doing. They're saying like, hey, we're placing a dollar amount on human lives, basically. Like we're accepting the risk that someone could die. Otherwise, we're paying like really expensive preventative life insurance, death prevention insurance, basically. But yeah, I hear you. Okay, what else? Moving backwards, there was the fire in Maui, the Trump indictment. That was pretty big news. They put a date on the case. That'll be next year. March,
March-ish,
right?
right?
Yeah,
March.
March 4th, I think.
I gotta say, I don't really care. I apologize.
My big thing about that is like, does it really take that long to put an indictment together? Because this is now finally involving the on tape recording of him petitioning. I don't know what the title is, but right, the Republican representative that was managing elections in Georgia saying,
I just want to find 11,780 votes, which is one more than we have, because we won the state. I only need 11,000 votes. Fellas, I need 11,000 votes. Give me a break.
Well, Mr. President, the challenge that you have is the data you have is wrong.
and it took this long, 2 years, to be able to say like,
And it's also going to take 6 months to physically put a trial together.
right. Yeah, so that's what irks me, because March is going to run right into the election, and that's annoying. And obviously people on that side of the fence, Trump supporters, are saying like, that's exactly why you did it this way. And I have no way of knowing one way or another. It just stinks. It stinks that if it was that obvious, it took this long. But I know little about the wheels of justice, so there we are.
Right.
All right, what else? I should shut my mouth.
And really quickly, I don't want to say I don't care. I guess my point is that I try to have conversations with people, and the people that I interact with, of a certain age and persuasion, will genuinely listen to the same fucking phone call. Like, this is not different than the phone call with the Ukrainians, right? Right.
I think we got a transcript of that. I don't know if we ever, as the public, actually heard audio. We did get to see a transcript. You're talking about hey, if you really want these missiles, you got to play ball. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. As far as I know, but I'm not sure.
Bro, you're stepping all over my lines. Like I'm bombing right now. Anyway, no, but like how? I mean, at the end of the day, he's telling somebody who I believe we have, like legal agreements, like written agreements with these countries about what kind of aid we'll give them, when, and under what conditions. The fact that he's willing to renege on it, or it sounds like it, like he may not even have the power to do that. I'm not sure. But the fact that he verbally is like threatening to not go through with something that we've contractually agreed upon, unless something that he wants gets done, people don't have a problem with that. And that's insane to me. To me, that's insane, right? Like, if the government, unless we go through the proper channels, right? Like, so let's just say we have an agreement with Montenegro, and we're going to, whatever, we're going to sell them DVDs of Andrew Dice Clay, doing his stand-up. And we tell them, hey, you're not going to get these Andrew Dice Clay DVDs unless, I don't know, you do X, Y, and Z. But we already have this agreement. Like, that's a part of like foreign policy, right? The fact that other countries can rely on us, whatever, like us to stand up to our agreements. And many people don't have a problem with that because they don't really care about government. They don't really care about democracy, right? They just care that the United States is winning, or that a certain faction of people in the United States are winning. If you know what I mean. I'm trying not to be obvious, but I can if you want. Like, there's a level of, because I guarantee you, if Obama does that, totally different story, right? These same people would say, well, he's destroying our foreign policy, and he's not strengthening our, stance, around the world where they're comfortable with that person being a bully, being duplicitous, being underhanded. Like, a Republican or a white person can be Tony Soprano. But if it were a Democrat, it's like, hey man, go buy the book. Do this, do that. Anyway.
Yeah, I think that's always going to be the case. That recently just came out. If you're on social media, I see people that are on both sides of the aisle, and the world was coming to an end when Trump was president. I'm saying that as this was quoted by people on the left. And if you look now, people on the right are saying very specifically, that was the phrase. We are the laughing stock of the world. People on the left said that when Trump was president, and people on the right are now saying that about Biden being president. So, yeah, I think that's always going to happen. It's a matter of perspective, unfortunately, and it's very, very hard to be objective when people are so closely aligned to their party. All right, I put you on the spot. I've already fired away 3 things. I'm going to give you a 4th. This is very casual. We've gone kind of important current events, but baseball got a pitch clock. I don't follow baseball that closely for years now, but I thought that was brilliant. And it seemed like people hated the idea during spring training, but then they actually liked the implementation during the games. So that's 4-0 now. Come on, go back before baseball spring training. What has happened, man? You're the one always accusing me of living under a rock. What happened between September of last year and March of 2023? Give me something. Maybe 1 or 2 more, and then we'll move it along.
Bro, you're asking somebody with the memory of a tortoise. Like, bro, you know that we've had arguments about like that
was weeks ago.
Bro, you understand that I am the Rick James of memory. It's horrible. Now, when you tell me a subject, I'll fucking blather on for hours. But putting me on the spot is pretty horrible.
It's tough for me too. I had to work backwards, and I don't know if I can go much further back than baseball got a pitch clock.
Right, like that was out of fucking nowhere.
Out of left field, pun intended.
Bro,
that's fantastic.
Do you know the fucking?
I might hang it up on that one.
Do you know the meme of the black kid? He's kind of chubby, and he just stands there with kind of his
with
hand
the drink in his hand.
I don't know if he has a drink in his hand, but he kind of like just puts his eyes to the left, like, what the fuck are you
He's got a drink in his hand, yes. Actually, I saw there was a follow-up on that kid.
What happened?
And he was able to make a little bit of money from that fame, from becoming a meme.
You know what?
I think it was really cool.
I think I vaguely saw something like that. Vaguely.
It might have been like a sponsorship or a commercial spot or some advertising from the place he was at.
Right.
It might. Right. Yeah, I got to find out. But anyway, yes, I know the kid. Yeah, but you're saying that's what you feel like right now, being on the spot to try and think.
No. When you said the baseball pitch clock, I was like, where did that come from, and why did he bring it up? Like, are you bringing it up because your uncle got credit for that or something? Like, what the fuck? Honest, who gives a shit about baseball? Number one, and you said it was brilliant. It's only brilliant because it made something horrible slightly less horrible.
Yeah, that's an opinion, but agreed, and that is always positive, right?
What has happened, right? So politics, economics. Oh, you know what's funny? So yesterday, this is a general thing. I don't know about timing, but everybody that I talk to says San Francisco is a fucking shithole, right? It's a blight on society. You can't live there. They say the same thing about Portland, I believe. Certain cities that seem to be way more, compassionate and open-minded about, the homeless and doing things to, bend over backwards to not, demonize or criminalize those people. Crime seems to be on the rise, and it's unbearable to live, and, capitalism and the ability to just make money and be safe is, in peril. I'm not sure if you heard of that, but specifically about cities like LA, San Francisco, Portland, Seattle, specifically those types of cities. And so I was speaking to a person yesterday who lives in San Francisco, and she was like, they definitely have some kind of silly policies that seem to allow homelessness and petty crime to. She said CVS was closing many of their stores because they passed an ordinance saying that anything less than $1,000 worth of theft or damage will not be prosecuted. Now, that doesn't mean the police won't try to stop you, like to have to to create order, I guess, but you will not go to jail and you will not face any criminal action. And as much as I'm definitely quote unquote on the left, and that seems to be a leftist kind of quote unquote policy, I think it's asinine. I think it lacks any like common sense or forethought. Um, I definitely think that homelessness is a problem, and we should be compassionate towards those people and look for ways for them to be able to get away from that, or to have a home and have a job and have food and have security, but not at the expense of just lawlessness. Now, I'm not saying that that's what those people wanted to happen, but when you do something like decriminalizing theft. She said that people were going into a CVS or a Walgreens or a supermarket and just fucking clearing out the shelves, like just
you haven't seen any videos of this? I'm listening to you tell this like you've only heard her talk about it. This has been everywhere. I mean,
right.
sorry, the videos of that happening in San Francisco and locations like you mentioned have been like I've seen them multiple times.
So not specifically of San Francisco. I have seen some. So I've seen videos of like kids, and I don't know where this was, but just going into like iPhone stores and just like ripping down the fucking displays and stealing like 15, 20 iPhones at a time and just walking out the store in such a brazen fashion that I'm like, what the fuck? Now they have masks on and everything, but I didn't see anything specific about San Francisco in that fashion.
Yeah, I've definitely seen them. I'm sure it'll be easy for me to put some in over you describing it. But yeah, it's exactly that. It is. And what's funny is not funny because none of that is funny. But what is odd is that like you kind of have to. They are moving fast. So I'm wondering how much of the math they're doing. Like, did I grab more than $1,000 worth of merchandise? But they are literally. Basically, like you said, iPhones, you couldn't do it. It can't be in the same places that have these less than 1,000 ordinances because you grab an iPhone or two iPhones and you're over, right?
Right.
But so yeah, this is very much like, oh, cool. We can take stuff from Walgreens or we can take stuff from CVS, and it's literally just stripping the shelves and putting it in bags and trying to run out the store. And security guards are literally in multiple videos. Security guards are just literally watching them because they're like, what am I going to do? You can't prosecute this. What's the point of me getting in harm's way? I totally agree with you. We'll put a pin in that, maybe for a future discussion. It makes no sense to me. I'm not sure what anyone was thinking in writing that law. I understand how this country has taken advantage of people by trumping up charges, to use that phrase, right? To use petty criminal offenses to really lock away marginalized areas of the population. But that just seems like a complete lack of forethought. It makes no sense to me.
You're just inviting the worst situations. So this is the Wall Street Journal really quickly. Walgreens has closed 22 stores in the city where thefts under $950 are effectively decriminalized.
And so I imagine that's somewhat gray given that they use the word effectively. So there's something more to that. But yeah, that's the
right.
way
There are probably some gray areas where it's like, decriminalized in a sense, like it's not as harsh as other cities, right? So they made a market difference in how they will approach thefts under $1,000 versus most other places. You'll get certain charges, at least on your criminal record. You'll get probation, you'll get monitoring, you'll get, a loss of maybe some rights or whatever. I don't know.
Yeah.
Okay. So
all right, let's mark it. That's great. I'm glad you thought of one. That's fantastic. I just checked with the Family Feud board, and that came back without an X. So I'm thinking that happened since the last time we recorded. Well done, 4-1. Even though I put you on the spot, you managed to think of something. So moving on to today's topic, you said you wanted to talk about judgment. So lead us in. I think that's a great idea.
Right. So the reason I thought about this is because I have a million conversations with people, and people don't want to be judged, right? Like they genuinely use that word. So my first thing is, hey, let's try to provide a definition of judgment. And the problem, and you and I kind of agree with this, right? One of the problems with the human language or the American culture of language, because I don't know if we can speak to human language. We know the American culture and use of language. One of our problems is that everybody can have their own definition, and we're expected to like kind of deal with it and communicate, although we're using a word that has drastically different definitions. So to me, judgment is just my opinion, right? So I've come to a conclusion on this topic, and that's my judgment. Where
That's
other
the word I
people,
would have used. Yeah.
right? So other people see judgment as a negative thing. It is just it is demonstrably a negative thing. You should not be judging people. Like, stop being so judgmental. What the fuck does that even mean? If not, stop having an opinion about things. And always a negative opinion, right? I can come to positive opinions. That is not a judgment, right? So a positive opinion is not a judgment. Oh, you're beautiful. I think you're smart. I think the decisions you make are good. You're moral or you're whatever. All good things. Hey, those aren't judgments. Judgment is, oh, you're fat. You're ugly. You're mean. You're stupid. You're poor. And my issue is that it doesn't allow us to have conversation. I don't think I told you the story. So a guy I play poker with, did I tell you a story about this guy I play poker with?
You've told a number of stories about guys you played poker with, but go ahead. I don't know which one.
Right. So just recently, I was not sitting at the table, but it was confirmed. It is confirmed. It's not disputed that he said the N-word, right? So he got mad at, I guess, the dealer, and not directly and in a I guess, aggressive manner, but they had some type of, I guess, the dealer made a judgment on his situation, and he said, I fucking hate this. And he was asked to leave, and he left with no issue. And so at a different venue where I also play poker with this individual, the proprietor of that venue pulled me aside and said, hey, we're thinking about how we're going to handle this situation, and I wanted to know your opinion. And so this is how the whole judgment thing comes in. Like, my opinion, my judgment is that I don't know if this guy is quote unquote racist, but I do know for a fact that this guy used that word as a pejorative for the person, right? Like, there are tons of white people in this country who use that word to refer to other white people, right? So to be fair, is that person racist against white people because he used the N-word against a white person? So is the N-word huh?
No, I'm going to pause you there, though, but because it sounds like you don't feel this way. That person is 100% racist against black people, even though they use the word to describe a white person.
So when you say 100%, you mean 100%, not 99%, because
100%. In my opinion, that's my judgment on that use of the word.
So if a black person were to call a white person the N-word as it pertains to a negative interaction, is this black person now racist against black people?
Yes.
Okay. I didn't see that one coming. I think you're full of shit, but okay. So no,
I'm 100%. Why?
I'm pleasantly surprised. Okay, cool. So I guess that was my only point. So anyway, so I told the guy, I said, listen, if you want to ban him, you obviously have that choice. If you're asking me if you should ban him, I don't really have an opinion whether you should ban him or not. I would be comfortable either way. If you banned him, that's your choice because of how you feel, comfortable or uncomfortable with it. But if you also didn't ban him, my hope, and this is exactly what I told him, my hope would be that all of us other players would shun him to the point where he did not want to be here anymore, right? Now, we don't have to beat him up. We don't have to berate him. Just literally, he should not exist from a social standpoint, because a lot of poker is social, right? Like, so as much as we want to make money and we enjoy playing poker, a big part of enjoying playing poker is the banter that goes back and forth and relationships that both positive and negative. Like, there are people at poker that I don't like and who don't like me, and I go there loving it, right? Like, I know this guy hates me. I'm going there to try to, punch him in the nose from a poker standpoint. And so if no one socializes with him, no one interacts with him, he wouldn't come here anymore, right? So I think that I'm a big advocate of kind of personal responsibility and putting the onus on the population of people to create the environment that they want to see, instead of asking this business owner to create that environment, right? Because we should take ownership of that environment. And so that was my quote unquote judgment. But I guess my point is, and I'm open to your interpretation of just this situation in general, but is it okay to say, you know what, this guy can't come here anymore because he said the N-word? Okay is a strong word, because obviously that person has the right. But what would you do if you were a different venue, or even the venue where he said the N-word?
Yeah, if it's my place of business, you're not welcome here anymore, period.
Okay. One time. Okay. Even though you do not have an issue with your black players saying the N-word. Now, I'm not saying you, Abdul, right? Because obviously you probably would. But good question. How would you handle black people calling one another the N-word, or even a white person the N-word?
Yeah, I wouldn't want to hear it, period.
But would you get rid of a black person for calling another black person the N-word?
Yeah, I think I would, to be consistent. And like you said, I'm thinking of this on the fly now, but absolutely, right? Like, because my gut reaction to the first case is without a doubt, and I would want to be consistent. You don't want to have some gray area where it's like, well, some people can say that word, right? And imagine that gray area is not just based on race or perceived race, right? Like, I'm just making it up as I go along. I'm comfortable with Joe saying it, not with Bob saying it, and Timmy definitely can't say it, right? Like, yeah, I think I would have to be consistent and be like, look, there's just things I don't want to hear. Maybe have a list of things like that's not how we conduct ourselves in this poker club or whatever.
Right. So black people are not chastised for using that word at all in either of these venues, and they do it on a regular basis, very comfortably and very vocally. It's not whispered in corners. Now, it's not every black person, right? Like, there's certain people who use that word and certain people who don't use that word. And I'm not making I can make a value judgment. I don't like that word either, and I don't think anybody should use it. I shouldn't say that. I don't think anybody should use it. Yeah, I don't think anybody should use it. I do think we should phase that word out of the vocabulary, even in places where we're using it playfully, quote unquote, even when we're using it, with people that we, don't have a problem with, because I think it's problematic, and to even have that. To even have that job of having to decipher, is he being positive? Is he being negative? Like, who is he saying it to? Like, now, so to be slightly hypocritical, I guess a little bit, I don't particularly have a problem with white people using the N-word because of, where I come from and who a lot of the people that I surround myself with, I should say a lot of people I grew up with. I don't surround myself with people who use the N-word, but a lot of people I grew up with are very comfortable using the N-word, like, and as a positive and as a negative. And so I don't want to be a hypocrite to say, yeah, black people can say it and white people can't. Because I think that's the basis of racism. It's like, oh yeah, based on the color of your skin allows you to do something or say something or whatever.
Yep. Yeah.
But anyway, so the whole judgment thing, I think it transcends this realm into cancel culture, right? So we talked about that before. I know we already did it, so we won't go into depth about that. But I think one of the basis of cancel culture is, who is the judge of things, right? So fun. It's not funny, but Planet Fitness does the whole no
No
judgment.
judgment zone. Yeah.
Right. So that's a prime example of, hey, if you are a bodybuilder type dude, and you're now, the truth of the matter is, Planet Fitness, which is why I don't go there, unless it's like 2 o'clock in the morning and they have like a 24-hour facility. That's the only reason I have. Well, that, and sometimes I do personal training, and it's easy to just take somebody in there. But for the most part, it's not a place that I would work out because they mostly have cardio. Their dumbbells stop at 75. I'm not a big, strong dude, and I think that's pathetic. Like, any reasonable gym is going to go up to at least 125, 135 when it comes to dumbbells. Like, because, that's not ridiculous to be that strong. I'm not that strong, but I think, you should have the environment where people could grow that strong. So they're literally catering to a certain, and it's okay to cater to a certain set of people, right? If you're catering to, hey, people who aren't trying to get big and strong and take steroids or anything like that, but you want to go lift and blah, blah, blah. But do you have to make, because they're commercial, I pick things up and put them down, right? That dude who's just a human, you've seen that a commercial?
Yes, definitely. That's years ago now, but yeah.
Right. The dude who's a human muscle and he walks around just saying, I pick things up and put them down. First of all, the fact that he has that accent, that they're making a reference to Arnold Schwarzenegger, right? Right. So, like, do you have to lampoon, I don't want to say demonize because I think that's a strong word, but do you have to make fun of someone who looks at fitness in a slightly different way? Like, what is so wrong with lifting heavy weights? And if you lift heavy weights and you're at the end of your fucking set of 7, you're not going to lightly place them down. Like, don't even allow a person to come in there if their type of fitness is reprehensible to you. You know what I mean?
I never even thought, this is sad, about the fact that they're making a judgment on people who are bodybuilders, powerlifters, basically the people they don't want in their facility.
Bro, they have a siren where so the siren goes off. So there's someone who controls the siren, right?
Yeah, the lunk alarm or whatever, right?
Right, the lunk alert. If you drop a weight or if you grunt, bro, like do you know how much pressure is on you if you're doing a deadlift or if you're doing a really heavy squat or certain things like, and why is grunting hurting other people? How is me grunting hurting the person over here who's doing Pilates? If you want to do Pilates, go into a room where you're sequestered from all sound. Again, the whole judgment thing is really, I guess the two points I wanted to make is, number one, is hypocritical. And number two, I think it's.
You ever see that gif of Kobe saying soft?
I was going to say weakness, right? Like it's so, it speaks to your personal fragility and weakness that everybody has to make you feel comfortable. I totally understand that nobody should make you feel uncomfortable in any direct way, right? But why is that uncomfortable for you to be on the other side of the gym and for me to drop my weights? Now, to be honest, I am a purist in the sense that there's a way to handle your weights, right? Because we don't want to damage the weights, because you're gonna, if these weights break, now nobody can use it. Now I'm pissed, right? So I think there's a conscientious way to do it. There's but be reasonable, right? Be reasonable in the space of, this is a heavy weight. I'm not going to gently and lightly put it down after I do 15 reps. Or not being able to grunt, or not wearing. So women, again, if you go into a gym, women are fucking scantily clad. I'm not, bro, I'm not mad, right? I'm loving it. But if a dude, I'm not sure if you're familiar with it, but they're called, I don't wear the stuff because I think it's a little bit on the fugazi side, but they're called spaghetti straps. No, women call them spaghetti straps, but like there's a tank top that some bodybuilder type where like a lot of your chest is exposed. Like a lot of your chest is exposed. Why you would want to wear that is beyond me. But again, I don't care. It doesn't. I'm not offended by it. Right? If you've been to a beach, you've seen a man's chest. Why is it weird for you to see a man's chest while he's working out? Or you could stop looking. But like they will outlaw certain clothes that a man can wear. And this is not men versus women, right? It's just one example of just being hypocritical. They outlaw certain things that men can wear that women are wearing very similar things, right? Very much scantily clad, their bodies exposed, and it's just, again, I just have a problem. You know me, like the consistency and the lack of hypocrisy are the things that I look for when I look at the fairness of a situation. And most people who have a problem with that word judgment are really just wanting to curate a space that caters to them. That's my only point. Like if that literally is my only point. That most of the examples of, don't judge me is hypocritical weakness of, hey, I want this environment to be specifically catered for me.
I would love to play devil's advocate here, and I literally have nothing. I feel exactly the same way. I'm struggling to even remotely defend anything in the realm of what you've described, because I think I know a lot of people who feel the way that you've placed into these hypotheticals, the don't judge me phrase. I'm having a third slice of pizza, don't judge me. And it's used ironically and semi-funny, but they mean it, right? They want you to not think anything about them. Like, hey, I'm not the type of person who always has 3 slices of pizza. I'm not the type of person who always gets fast food. Even preemptive things like that, right? Like, oh, I never have fast food. We're all going out for McDonald's or whatever. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if they feel that way about themselves and they know they've internally had to battle and say, okay, well, bad me wins. The one on the left shoulder wins. I'm going to have the third slice of pizza. Shut up, good person, in my other ear or on my other shoulder. And because of that, they know other people might feel that way. And they're saying, hey, don't judge me. But it's exactly what you said. Like, what are you asking of the world at that point? You are literally saying you are not to think anything bad of me. And so the irony is, like, you're really placing yourself above other people's. You're accusing is maybe not the best word, but you're trying to make sure that no one stands above you as a judge, as an arbiter. But in reality, when you're doing that, you are saying, I am above judgment. No one should ever think anything bad about me. That's crazy. And I've got nothing to do.
No, right. That last is the key. Don't ever think anything negative about me.
Yeah.
That's the hypocrisy, right? The hypocrisy is don't think anything negative. Like, it's not don't ever have a judgment against me. And that's what I try to explain when I'm talking to people, especially, with the dating situation, you're meeting new people. And when I tell them about, atheism, and I tell them about how I feel about fitness and things like that, I can't tell you how many people said, you just sound really judgmental. I'm like, wait, you don't want me to have an opinion about, like, you want me to like any and everything about everybody? So, yes, you're right. Everybody's a beautiful person in their own space and deserves, I don't know if they deserves love, but, somebody can love everybody. There is definitely somebody for everybody in the world. That I will totally agree with. I'm just not the person for everybody. And so what you're telling me is to not, before I even met you, I had this opinion, right? I didn't like left-handed tennis players before I met you. So when you tell me you're a left-handed tennis player, I'm like, oh God, that's gross. Get off my phone.
Damn that Rod Laver. I don't even know if he's left-handed, but I think so.
Well, first of all, I'm mad that you said Rod Laver because he's not my type, number one. You 100% know I love Pete Sampras.
He's right-handed, though.
Who, Pete?
Pete Sampras.
Right. I hate left-handed tennis players. I just said that.
All right.
First of all, stop making me make sense, bro. This is a joke. Anyway. Right. So it's just, again, I think it speaks to a societal ill. and on a large part, just on the language part, right? The language part of how are we using this word, and are we? And again, this is something that we talk about a lot. Do we allow people to totally abrogate a word? Like, I'm going to take this word and it's going to mean what the fuck I want it to mean. This is going to go away from the judgment thing, right? But we talk about in the atheist community, people trying to use the word spiritual, right? Because I think technically the word spirit has a meaning, right? And that meaning being non-material beingness, for lack of a better word, right? So I think we'll all agree that consciousness is non-material, although it emanates from the material, right? But that's the difference between that is the presumed difference between a theist and an atheist, right? So a theist will believe that your consciousness or your spirit exists in a world where, non-material, I am a non-material being that's inhabiting a physical form. And when that physical form goes away, my being will go on, right? So that's their belief. That's obviously not our belief or my belief, right? And so the belief that, you have a spirit is a theistic one, right? So, whatever. It's on the supernatural realm. It's not materialistic. But now we have atheists who because they're trying to, and this is the political way of saying it, because they're trying to bridge that gap, because they're trying to convert people or get people to either like and respect them or be comfortable around them, they start using the other side's quote unquote words to try to make other people feel comfortable, i.e. spirituality, i.e. awe, right? Like Sam Harris does it a lot, unfortunately, where he says, he equates spirituality with the awe of seeing the universe and being amazed by it. That's not what they're talking about when they talk about spirit, right, and spirituality. So why are you trying to pretend that this has anything to do with atheism, right? Whether you're the atheist or not an atheist, you can still be amazed by the aurora borealis. So
yeah, that's fine. But in defense of Sam Harris, I actually agree with that. I do think people don't even realize that's the why. I will say definitely some and possibly even most feel that way, and they know the word and the concept of spirituality like better than they're more comfortable like just assigning it to awe or amazement. That they're like, okay, what I felt was above awe and amazement. And so, I've heard this described as spirituality. So I don't know that it's everyone, but I would think a large number of people that talk in that language, that's exactly why.
Super new age though, right? Like that's not
absolutely. Right. And I think you succinctly at the end there made the case. Like we can't do that. And in fact, what's the guy's name? Oh man, Ray Comfort, The Way of the Master. Mm-hmm. Him and Kirk Cameron, they do that. They explicitly say in their videos, they say,
let's say, Mr. Professing Atheist, you know an incredible 1% of all the knowledge in the universe. Is it possible in the 99% of the knowledge you haven't yet come across, there is ample evidence to prove that God exists? And if you're reasonable, you'll have to say, well, it is possible in the knowledge I haven't yet come across, there is ample evidence to prove that God does exist. So he's forced to say, well, with the limited knowledge that I have at present, I've come to the conclusion there's no God, but I really don't know.
That's right. He's not technically an atheist, he's an agnostic. He's a person who doesn't know if there's a God. He's like the person that looks at a building and says, I don't know if there was a builder.
And I agree. I don't want a halfway point. I don't want a first step on the journey and become more comfortable with the word spiritual. Like, either you acknowledge that something makes sense, you have a good reason to believe something you believe, or no, there's not multiple subway stops over here.
Right.
Great points also about, I know you strayed there into the use of language, and that's fine, but I did not think about exactly how you frame this whole thing. The judgment is really only about the negative. And I totally agree. You led off with your definition is it's an opinion. That's the way I would have said it too. Once you formed an opinion, you've judged something. And it's not ever an opinion that is positive. I've never thought about that. And it's so true. And that's sad,
Really?
right? That's sad. Like they're completely, definitely not. And they are people who feel that way are completely comfortable, as you said, getting compliments, right? The response to it, oh, your hair looks really nice today. It's never, don't judge me. Please don't judge me. That makes me
How dare you, sir?
Yeah. I've never thought about it, but that's sad. That is, and exactly like you said, it's an appropriation of the word where, hey, judgment is only negative.
Right. And so, number one, it kind of defiles the language, right? So literally people stop using the word judgment, right? Because literally in a courtroom, there's a judgment, but that judgment, there's a plaintiff and a defendant. So that one judgment, it has a positive impact and a negative impact, right? If the defendant is found guilty, the positive is that the prosecution wins. Yay, our opinion won. Versus the defendant's opinion lost, or vice versa. Like, what? Why is it so hard? But again, it stops healthy relationships, right? In my mind, a healthy relationship is one where I can tell you some negative things about yourself. And most people gauge the success or the status of their relationship on, like, how positive is it? How overwhelmingly positive is it? Even if it's not overwhelmingly positive, because I can't talk about all the negative shit. So it's like, I can only talk about the positive, and the negative stuff I have to whisper about, or I got to talk to other people about it and vent or whatever, instead of just being more honest with each other. So this is not just about, oh, I want to say negative things about people. This is really a larger conversation about whether or not, healthy relationships or interactions can exist if you're beyond, as you said, above judgment or beyond judgment.
Yeah, and I'll even go a step further, and I'm fine with it being described as you're preventing healthy relationships, but I think you're even preventing a healthy mode of developing self-esteem, right? Like a healthy way of existing within yourself, right? If you only say to yourself, hey, I really only want to think about the positive things I do, and you never think about anything objectively about yourself that should be worked on. You know what? I go around slapping people, and I should probably stop that. If you don't think that, you're going to have a worse life, right? You're going to be treated like a person who slaps people. And when you go back and look at yourself in the mirror and say, why is everyone so mean to me? Or whatever it is you think, it's because you didn't take the time to just have that conversation with yourself, right? And I think we talked about this a long time ago, but the concepts of objectivity and accountability to me are big steps, right? So the whole thing is of our podcast, the way we like to frame this is we want to be racking our brains, right? That's why we landed on that. I thought it was a brilliant title when you proposed it. I want people to think more. I want you to rack your brain. And part of that is, hey, you're thinking to yourself a lot of the time. And I want people to be objective with their own behavior and thoughts, etc. And I want them to be accountable for their thoughts and actions. And if you can't be, if you are beyond judgment, you're worse off. You're 100% worse off, in my opinion.